I ended up having a one-night stand with my mom's boyfriend, and she doesn't know. But I took this final decision. I, 25F, have been living with my mom, 50F, my entire life. Our family history is complicated and filled with both happiness and sadness. When I was just 5 years old, my dad died in a terrible car accident. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon, and he was on his way home from work. A drunk driver ran a red light and crashed into his car. My dad didn't survive the impact. That day changed everything for us. I remember my mom collapsing when the cops came to our door. Her painful cries still echo in my mind sometimes. I was too young to fully understand what had happened, but I knew something was terribly wrong. The following days were a blur of black clothes, depressed faces, and silent conversations. My mom was completely devastated by my dad's death. She struggled to cope with her grief, often spending entire days in bed, crying. I didn't know how to help her, so I tried to be as quiet and well-behaved as possible. I'd bring her glasses of water or make simple sandwiches when she forgot to eat. It was a heavy burden for a young child to bear. For the first few years after my dad's passing, my mom focused solely on taking care of me and keeping our little family afloat. She threw herself into her work and made sure I had everything I needed. But I could see the sadness in her eyes, even when she smiled. We leaned on each other for support during those difficult times, forming a bond that went beyond the typical mother-daughter relationship. When I was around 8, my mom started dating again. I think the loneliness had become too much for her to bear. She told me she wanted to find love again, to have a partner to share her life with. I was hesitant at first, scared that she might forget about Dad or that these new men might try to replace him. But I wanted her to be happy, so I tried to be supportive. Unfortunately, my mom's dating experiences weren't positive. She seemed to attract men who took advantage of her kindness and weakness. There was Tom, who borrowed money and never paid it back. Then came Mark, who cheated on her with a coworker. Each failed relationship seemed to chip away at my mom's self-esteem and trust in others. These experiences changed my mom. She became more irritable and easily frustrated. The light that used to shine in her eyes dimmed. But the most concerning change was that she started drinking to cope with her emotions. At first, it was just a glass of wine with dinner. But soon she was having several drinks a day. It was hard for me to watch her go downwards. I tried my best to be a good daughter and support her however I could. I'd clean the house, cook simple meals, and even help her to bed when she'd had too much to drink. I felt like I had to be the responsible one, even though I was just a kid. When I turned 16, I started working part-time jobs to help contribute financially. I wanted to ease some of the burden on my mom and hoped that if she had less to worry about, maybe she'd drink less. I worked at a local grocery store after school and on weekends, saving most of what I earned to help with bills. But instead of things getting better, my mom's drinking only got worse once I started working. I think she used my income as an excuse to buy more alcohol. She eventually lost her job due to repeatedly showing up late and hungover. After that, she spent most of her time at home, drinking and watching TV. Things were pretty miserable for a while. I felt like I was drowning, trying to keep both of us afloat. I considered moving out several times, but I couldn't bear the thought of leaving my mom alone in her condition. I loved her, despite everything, and I was afraid of what might happen to her without me there. But then, about a year ago, something unexpected happened. My mom met Derek, 47M, at an AA meeting she had reluctantly agreed to attend. Derek was different from her previous boyfriends, kinder, more stable, and genuinely interested in her well-being. He was a widower, having lost his wife to alcoholism a few years prior. I think that's part of why he connected with my mom and wanted to help her. From the start, Derek was patient and understanding with my mom. He encouraged her to attend more AA meetings and supported her efforts to cut back on drinking. He'd bring over healthy meals and suggest alcohol-free activities they could do together. For the first time in years, I saw my mom starting to smile more often. Derek and I got along well from the start. He would often talk to me about his past and his late wife. He told me about their struggles with her alcoholism and how helpless he felt watching her slowly kill herself with drink. I appreciated how open and honest he was. It was nice to finally have a positive male presence in our lives again. After dating for about 6 months, my mom asked Derek to move in with us. I wasn't totally comfortable with the idea at first. Our home had always been just mom and me, and the thought of someone else joining our household made me uneasy. But when I expressed hesitation, my mom got really upset. She started crying about how unhappy she'd been and how she deserved some joy in her life. She accused me of not wanting her to be happy and said I was being selfish. I felt guilty and eventually agreed to let Derek move in, hoping it would help my mom's recovery. At first, things seemed okay with our new living arrangement. Derek was helpful around the house and continued to be a stabilizing influence on my mom. He encouraged her to cut back on drinking and even got her to start attending AA meetings regularly. He'd cook dinner most nights, and we'd all sit down to eat together like a real family. It was nice, in a way I hadn't experienced since before my dad died. But as the weeks went by, I started noticing myself having confusing feelings towards Derek. I found myself looking forward to our conversations and enjoying his company more and more. I caught myself admiring his kindness, his sense of humor, even his physical appearance. Sometimes when he'd smile at me, I'd feel a flutter in my stomach. I tried to push these thoughts out of my mind. Derek is my mom's boyfriend, for crying out loud. And he's old enough to be my dad. It felt wrong on so many levels. But no matter how much I tried to ignore it, the attraction kept growing stronger. I started making excuses to spend more time around Derek when my mom wasn't home. I'd ask him for help with random tasks or start conversations about topics I knew he was interested in. We'd talk about books we both loved or debate current events. He always listened to my opinions respectfully, even when we disagreed. Part of me felt guilty about seeking out these interactions, but another part felt excited by our growing connection. One day last week, things came to a head. My mom was out at an AA meeting and Derek and I were home alone. We were chatting in the kitchen while he prepared dinner. He was telling a funny story about his college days, and I found myself captivated by the way his eyes wrinkled when he laughed. Without thinking, I playfully touched his arm when I laughed at the punchline. There was this moment of tension between us, and I thought he might kiss me. My heart was racing, but he quickly stepped back and made an excuse to check on something in the oven. The moment passed, but it left me feeling shaken. Ever since then, things have felt awkward between Derek and me. I can tell he's trying to keep his distance. He doesn't make eye contact with me as much and seems to avoid being alone with me. I feel horrible about the whole situation. I never meant to develop feelings for my mom's boyfriend. I don't want to hurt my mom or ruin the progress she's made in her recovery. But at the same time, I can't deny the connection I feel with Derek. Part of me wonders if we could actually have something real together. He understands me in a way no one else ever has. We have so much in common and always have great conversations. He's kind, intelligent, and supportive. Everything I've ever wanted in a partner. I know pursuing anything with Derek would devastate my mom. She's finally in a good place after years of struggling. Her drinking has decreased significantly, and she's even talking about looking for a job again. I don't want to be the one to destroy her happiness and potentially send her spiraling back into alcoholism. The guilt of even considering. It is eating me up inside. But I also can't stop thinking about what it would be like to be with Derek. Would he be as caring and supportive as a partner as he is as a friend? Could we build a life together? These thoughts keep me up at night, torn between my own desires and my loyalty to my mom. I've been keeping all of this bottled up inside, and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what to do. Should I try to ignore my feelings and hope they go away? Should I move out to create some distance? Should I be honest with my mom or Derek about how I'm feeling? The thought of any of these options fills me with anxiety. I never thought I'd be in a situation like this. I feel like a terrible daughter for even considering pursuing my mom's boyfriend. But my heart is pulling me in that direction. I'm so confused and conflicted. I've spent so much of my life taking care of my mom and putting her needs first. Part of me wonders if it's finally time to prioritize my own happiness, but another part is terrified of hurting her and ruining our relationship. So Reddit, am I bad for falling for my mom's boyfriend? What should I do in this messy situation? I feel like no matter what I choose, someone is going to get hurt. How do I navigate these complicated feelings without destroying my family? Update. It's been 6 months since my last post, and I wanted to share what's happened since then. My feelings for Derek only grew stronger over time. I tried to ignore them, but it was impossible. Even Derek seemed to sense the tension between us. Our easy conversations became stiff and awkward. We both started avoiding being alone together, but that only made the air feel more charged when we were in the same room. About a month ago, my mom fell ill. She had a high fever and was complaining of severe abdominal pain. Derek and I rushed her to the hospital. The doctors ran some tests and diagnosed her with a kidney infection. They prescribed antibiotics and told us to make sure she rested and drank plenty of fluids. That evening, back at home, my mom was sleeping deeply due to the medication. I was in the kitchen, trying to prepare some soup for when she woke up, but I couldn't focus. The stress of the day, combined with all the pent-up emotions I'd been dealing with for months, finally overwhelmed me. I broke down crying. Derek found me like that, collapsed on the kitchen floor, sobbing. He knelt beside me and tried to console me. He put his arm around my shoulders and told me everything would be okay. I looked up at him, and suddenly all the tension that had been building between us exploded. I'm not proud of what happened next. We kissed, and then we ended up being intimate right there on the kitchen floor. It was passionate and intense, but also desperate and guilt-ridden. As soon as it was over, shame washed over me. I couldn't believe what I'd done. My mom was sick in the other room, and I just slept with her boyfriend. Derek looked equally ashamed. He mumbled an apology and quickly left the room. I cleaned myself up and went to check on my mom, feeling like the worst daughter in the world. The guilt ate at me over the next few weeks. I knew my mom was planning to marry Derek. She'd been hinting at it for a while, talking about how she'd finally found her happily ever after. And here I was, betraying her in the worst possible way. I tried to distract myself by dating men my own age. I went on several dates with guys I met through friends or dating apps, but none of them held my interest. All I could think about was Derek. Finally, I realized I had to take severe action. I decided that as soon as my mom and Derek got married, I would move out. It was the only way I could see to remove myself from this impossible situation. In the meantime, I did my best to keep my distance from Derek. I made sure we were never alone together and kept our interactions as brief and impersonal as possible. It hurt, but I knew it was necessary. One evening, my mom was talking excitedly about wedding plans. She turned to me and asked if I'd be her maid of honor. The guilt hit me like a punch to the gut. I blurted out that I was planning to move out after the wedding. My mom's face fell. She asked why, and I fumbled for an explanation. I said I thought it was time for me to have my own place, that I didn't want to intrude on their newlywed life. She seemed sad but said she understood. That night, Derek came to talk to me while my mom was in the shower. He confessed that he had feelings for me too. He said he tried to fight them, but he couldn't deny the connection between us. For a moment, my heart soared. But then reality came crashing back down. I told Derek that it didn't matter how we felt. What we'd done was wrong, and we couldn't hurt my mom like that. I said I was going to stick to my plan of moving out. It was better for everyone this way. Derek looked pained, but he nodded. He agreed it was for the best. We promised each other that we'd never speak of our feelings again, and that we'd do our best to be a normal stepdaughter and stepfather. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into apartment hunting. I found a small studio not too far from my work. It wasn't much, but it would be mine. A place where I could try to sort out my confused feelings without the constant temptation of Derek's presence. My mom and Derek's wedding was a small affair, just close family and friends in our backyard. My mom looked happier than I'd seen her in years. I plastered a smile on my face and played my part as the supportive daughter. But inside, my heart was breaking. The day after the wedding, I moved out. My mom cried as she helped me pack up my things. She kept asking if I was sure about this, if there was anything she could do to make me stay. I assured her I just needed my own space and promised to visit often. Derek was quieter during the move. He helped carry boxes to my car but didn't say much. As I was about to leave, he pulled me aside. He told me he was proud of me for being strong enough to do what was right. Then he hugged me, and for a moment, I let myself imagine a different life where we could be together. But I knew it was just a fantasy. It's been a week since I moved into my new place. It's lonely, and I miss my mom. I even miss Derek, despite everything. But I know I made the right choice. My mom deserves to be happy, and Derek is good for her. They can have the life they've always wanted without me complicating things. As for me, I'm trying to focus on building my own life. I've joined a gym and signed up for a cooking class. I'm determined to meet new people and create a future for myself that doesn't revolve around my complicated family situation. Sometimes at night, I still think about Derek. I wonder what might have been if we'd met under different circumstances. But then I remind myself that it doesn't matter. What's done is done, and now we all have to live with the consequences of our actions. I don't know what the future holds. Part of me hopes that these feelings will fade with time and distance. Another part wonders if I'll always carry this secret pain. But I'm trying to take it one day at a time. I still feel guilty about what happened. I betrayed my mom's trust in the worst way possible. But I'm also trying to forgive myself. I made a mistake, but I'm doing my best to make things right now. I haven't told anyone else about what happened between Derek and me. It's a secret I'll probably carry to my grave. Sometimes I think about confessing to my mom, but I know it would only hurt her. She's happy now, and that's what matters most. I'm not sure if moving out solved anything or just created new problems, but it was the only solution I could see. Now I have to figure out how to move forward with my life while keeping this huge secret. So that's where things stand now. I'm living on my own, trying to build a new life. My mom and Derek are newlyweds, seemingly happy. And I'm left wondering if I did the right thing or if I'll always regret the road not taken. I don't know if I'm looking for advice or just needed to get this off my chest. But if anyone has been in a similar situation or has any words of wisdom, I'd appreciate hearing them. How do you move on from something like this? How do you learn to live with the choices you've made even when they break your heart?